Welcome, my dear learners. We are still on number basis, and today we are looking at operations on number basis. And to start with, we are looking at adding and subtracting of number basis. So when adding and subtracting number bases, the rules are exactly the same as that of the base 10 or the decimal number. But what you must take note is the base in which you are working in. So if you are working in base 2, you have to take note of that. If you are working in base 5, you have to take note of that. If you are working in base 6, you have to be very, very careful. Now, in our normal operation on numbers such as, let's say, 1, 4, 4, and then plus 88. So, assuming we are to add these numbers together, okay, in our normal addition, we add 4 plus 8. That gives us what? 12. But what do? We write 2 and then we carry the 1 to this very side. Then we add this 1 to the 4, making 5. And then 5 plus 8 will give us 13. We don't write the whole of the 13, but we write 3 and then we send the other one to this very figure. Have you ever bothered yourself asking the reason why we don't write the whole of the 12 here, but instead you write the 2 here and then we bring the 1, which is the quotient, to the other figure? Have you ever wondered why it is so? Now, in our previous lesson, we learned that when the number or the numeral is written without any base assigned to it, we assume that that number is in base 10. So all the counting numbers that we've been using in our manipulation without any base assigned to them, we assume that all those counting numbers are in base 10 and we are working in base 10. So looking at this number, we realize that there is no base assigned to these numbers. So we assume that these numbers are in base 10. So 144 is in base 10 and 88 is also in base 10. And you also know that the highest digit in every number base is 1 less than the base itself. I believe you remember that. So in base 10, the highest digit is 9. So it ranges from 0, 1, 2, up to 9. We can't have 10 in base 10. Neither can we have 11, 12, and so on in base 10. So when we added 4 to 8, we are getting what? 12. We are getting what? 12. But here is the case that these numbers are in base 10 and we can't have 10 in a base 10 numeral. So what do? So we divide these 12 by the base in which we are working in. So the base that we are working in is in base 10. So we divide the 12 by the base, which is 10. And 10 into 12 will give us 1 remainder what? 2. So it is these 2 that we write here. And then we carry the quotient to the next number. So we carry this number to the next number. So we are going to get 1 plus 4, that gives us 5. 5 plus 8 will give us what? 13. But we can't have 13 in a base 10 numeral. The highest digit is what? 9. We can't have 13. So what do? You write our 13 and then we divide it by the base in which we are working in. So the base is what? Base 10. And 10 into 13, we have 1 remainder 3. So it is this remainder that we write here. And then we carry the quotient to this very number. That is how we do our normal addition and subtraction. Now, in working in other bases, we are going to apply the same concept, but here we are not going to work in base 10, but further in other bases. So let's take an example and then see how that one also works. Is that clear? Good. So let's take the first two examples and then see how it also works. Now realize that with the first example, example 1, we have 1, 1 base 2. We also have 1, 0 to the base of what? 2. So all these numerals are in base 2. And then we are to add them. But remember that the highest digit in every number base is 1 less than the base itself. So it means that in base 2, we can't have 2 here. Neither can we have 3, 4, 5, and so. The highest digit should be 1. So let's add them. 1 plus 0 give us 1. 1 is less than 2. So we are going to write the 1 here. 1 plus 1 will give us 2. 2 is equal to the base here. And we don't want to write 3 here because we are working in base 2. So we write it here. We have 1 plus 1 will give us 2. And since we are working in base 2, we can't have 3 here. So we divide these two by the base we are working in. So what base are we working in? In base 2. So we divide it by the base we are working in. 2 divided by 2 will give us 1, remainder 0. So like the one that we did here, we wrote the remainder here. So we are going to write the remainder here. The remainder is 0. And then we carried 1 to the other side. Okay, so we have 1 here. I guess you are following. Good. Now let's look at this example 2. We have 101 to the base of 2. Let me write it here. To the base of 2 to the base of 2. Now we are working in base 2. So the highest digit should be 1. We can't have 2. Neither can we have 3 or more. So we have 1 plus 1 will give us 2. We are working in base 2, so we can write 2. So 1 plus 1 will give us 2. We write the 2 here, and then we divide it by the base we are working in. The base is what? Base 2. So 1 divided by 2 divided by 2 will give us 1 remainder what? 0. So remainder 0. So it is this remainder that we are going to write here. So we write our remainder 0, and then we carry the quotient to the next number. 1 plus 0 will give us 1. 1 plus 1 will give us 2. Now we can write 2 when we are working in base 2. So we have 2 divided by the base we are working here, which is 2. And this is going to give us what? 1 remainder 0. So we are going to write the remainder here. And then we carry the 1, which is the quotient, to the next figure. 1 plus 1 will give us 2. We are working in base 2. So we can write 2 here. So we write the 2 divided by the base we are working in, which is 2. And this gives us 1 remainder 0. So we write our remainder, which is the 0. And then the 1, we send it to the other side, which is like this. Then we add our base we are working in. So 101 base 2 plus 11 base 2 is equal to 1000 base 2. Very, very easy. We will take another example. So we have our example 3. Example 3. So we have 11101 base 2 plus 110, 11 base 2. We are to add these two numbers in base 2 together. So let's see that one also. We have 1 plus 1 will give us 2. But since we are working in base 2, we can't write 2 here. The highest digit in base 2 is 1. So 1 plus 1 will give us 2. So we divide it by the base in which we are working in. And that base is what? In base 2. So 2 divided by 2 will give us 1. Remainder what? 0. So we are going to write this remainder here. And then we carry the quotient to the next number, which is this one. So we have 1 plus 0 plus 1 will give us 2. We are working in base 2, so we can't have 2 inside. So we divide it by the base we are working in, and this gives us 1 remainder 0. So we write this 0 here, and then we carry this one to the next number. Are you following? 1 plus 1 plus 0 will still give us 2. We are working in base what? 2. So we can't write 2. So we divide it by the base we are working in. And this gives us 1 remainder 0. So we write this 0 down here. And then we carry the quotient or the 1 to the next number. 1 plus 1 plus 1 will give us 3. Now we are working in base 2. The highest digit is what? 1. We can't write 2, we can't write 3, we can't write 4. So this 3, we divide it by the base that we are working in. The base is what? 2. So 2 into 3 will give us 1 remainder 1. So write this remainder down here, and then bring the quotient of this one to the next number. 1 plus 1 plus 1 will give us 3. We are working in base 2. So we are going to get 1 remainder 1. So we write 1 and then we bring the next number in. And then once you are done, you add your base to it. So 11102 plus 1101 base 2 is equal to 111000 base 2. Very, very easy. Let's take the next example. Then after that, I'll give you 3 examples. You try your hands on them. Is that clear? Good. Now we have our 4th example. These are written in base 5. So we have base 5, base 5. So we are to add 344 to the base of 5 plus 24 to the base of 5. We have to add these 2 digits in base 5 together. So applying the same concept here, we are going to do the same thing. So we have 4 plus 4 will give us 8. 8. But remember, we are working in base 5. The highest digit in base 5 is 4. So we can't write 5, 6, 7, and so on and so forth. So the highest digit that we can write here is 4. But we are having 8 here. And since 8 is greater than the base, we divide it by the base we are working in. So the base that we are working in is base 5. So 5 into 8 will give us what? 1 remainder 3. Are you following? Good. So we are going to write the remainder here, and then we carry the quotient to the next number. Then we continue with our addition. 1 plus 4 will give us 5. 5 plus 2 will give us what? 7. But 7 is greater than the base we are working in. So we divide it by the base we are working in by 5. And 5 into 7 will give us 1 remainder 2. So we are going to write the remainder here. So the remainder is 2. And then we carry the quotient or the 1 to the next digit. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 is less than 5, so we can write it here. Therefore, this numeral plus this numeral in base 5 is equal to 423 to the base of 5. Very, very easy. It's very, very easy. If you understand this very concept, you can solve any questions on addition and subtraction of number bases. I'm going to give you 3 examples. Try your hands on them. Make sure you pause the video and then solve them. So you try your hands on these 2 examples and then let me see if you have really understand the concept. So let's solve it together. So we have 4, 3, 7 base 8 plus 7, 5 base 8. Now you realize that we are working in what base? We are working in base 8. So in base 8, the highest digit is 7. We can have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and so on in base 8. So the highest digit that you can find in base 8 is 7 or less. Is that clear? So 7 plus 5 will give us what? 12. 12 is greater than the base that we are working in. So we divide it by the base. So we have 12 divided by the base, which is 8. And 8 into 12 will give us 1. Remainder what? 4. Let me use red ink for the remainder. Remainder 4. So we are going to write the remainder here. And then we carry the quotient or this one to the next number. Then we continue with our addition. 1 plus 3 will give us 4. 4 plus 7 will give us what? 11. 11 is greater than 8, which is the base that we are working in. So we divide that 11 by the base that we are working in. And 8 into 11 will give us 1, remainder 3. So we are going to write the remainder here. And then we are going to carry the quotient, which is 1, to the next digit. I guess you are following. 1 plus 4 will give us 5. 5 is less than the base 8. So we can write 5. And then finally, we add our base in which we are working it as a subtract to 8. So we have this digit or this numeral plus this numeral is giving us 5, 3, 4 base 8. Very, very easy. And I guess you add this very answer. Let's look at this one also. So we have this one is in base. Let me check the base. Sorry. So I do not add the base. Base 5. So this one is in base 5. Sorry. Good. So we are working in base 5. We are to sum this number in base 5 together. So we have the starting from the extreme right. 3 plus 2 will give us 5. But we are working in base 5. And we can't have 5 in base 5 number. The highest digit is 4. So since this is giving us 5 and it is equal to 5, we are going to divide this 5 by the base in which we are working in. The base that we are working in is in base 5. 5 into 5 will give us 1, remainder 0. So we are going to write the remainder here and then we carry the quotient of the 1 to the next digit. Then we continue with our addition. 1 plus 0 plus 2 give us 3. 3 is less than 5, so we can write it. So we have 3 now 1 plus 4 gives us 5, and 5 is equal to the base that we are working in. So we divide it by the base. So we have 5 divided by 5, and this is giving us 1 remainder 0. So we write the remainder. The remainder is 0, and then we carry the quotient to the next number. 1 plus 4 will give us 5, plus 2 will give us 7. 7 is greater than 5, which is the base. So we divide the 7 by the base, which is 5. And this is giving us 1 remainder 2. So we write the remainder, which is 2, and then we send 1 to the next figure. There's no figure here, so we add the 1 here. So you can say that this numeral plus this numeral is equal to 12030 base 5. Very, very easy. I'll give you one last example, okay? So add 442 to the base of 6, 2423 to the base of 6. Try your hands on it. So let's solve it. So we have this number plus this number all in base 6. Good. So we have in base 6, the highest digit is 5. It ranges from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That is what base 6. So the highest digit in base 6 is 5. Good. So we have 2 plus 3 will give us 5. 5 is less than 6, so we can write 5. 4 plus 2 is equal to the base we are working in. And we don't have 6 in the base 6 numeral, right? So we are going to divide the 6 by the base that we are working in. And that is going to give us 1 remainder 0. So we write the remainder, which is 0. We carry the 1 to the next digit. So we have 1 plus 4 give us 5. 5 plus 4 give us 9. 9 is greater than the base we are working in, which is base 6. And we don't have 9 in the base 6 digit. So we are going to divide the 9 by the base that we are working in. And this is going to give us 1 remainder 3. So we are going to write the remainder here, and then we carry 1 to the next number. Since there's no number here, we write it in front. So this plus that in base 6 is equal to this in base 6. Very, very easy. I guess you have grasped the concept. Let's look at subtraction also. So in subtraction of number bases, the rules that were applied on addition is the same rules that applies here. But what you must take note is when you are borrowing. Now when you are working in base 2, any number that you borrow is 2. When you are working in base 10, when you borrow, the number that you borrow is 10. When you are working in base 5, when you borrow is 5. So let's look at this. So let's take it that you have 2, 4, 2 minus 2, 3. That is 242 minus 23. Now you realize that there is no base assigned to these numbers. So we assume that these numbers are in base what? 10. Good. So these numbers are assumed to be in base 10. Now 2 minus 3, it can be right. So what do? We come to this number and then we borrow what? 1. Now the one that we borrow, because we are working in base 10, it is 10. So that is why we have 10 plus 2, and this gives us what? 12. So you see that when you borrow 1 from the 4 to the 2, we get what? 12. Not necessarily that we are adding the 1 to the 12, but the one that we borrowed is in base 10, and then 10 plus 2 gives us 12. Are you getting the clue? So when you come to number that is written in base 2, when you borrow, the number that you borrow is 2. Are you following? Good. Let's take the example and then see how it goes. So we have 110 base 2 minus 11 base 2. We have to subtract these numbers. So we have 0 minus 1. No, it is not possible. So what do? We come to this man or this number and then we borrow 1 from there. But the one that we are borrowed, since we are working in base 2, is 2, not 10, not 1. So 2 plus 0 will give us what? 2. And then 2 minus 1 will give us what? 1. Now we are writing this one because 1 is less than 2. We are writing in base 2, or we are working in base 2. Are you following? Good. Now 1 was here and then we borrowed. We are left with what? 0. 0 minus 1 is what? It's not possible. So what do? We come to this man and then we borrow 1. The one that we borrow, since we are working in base 2, is 2. Now here is already left with what? 0. Let me cancel it so that you see. So here is 0 now. So 2 plus 0 will give us 2. And then 2 minus 1 will give us 1. Now this one we have already borrowed to the next number. So we are left with what? 0. So we can decide to write it here or leave it. It is insignificant. Okay. So we are going to write 2. Are you following? Good. Let's take the next example. We have 1101 base 2 minus 110 base 2. So let's start subtracting. 1 minus 0 is 1. So we can write it, since we are working in base 2, we can write it. Now we have 0 minus 1. You know it is not possible because 1 is greater than 0. So what do? We come to this 1 and then we borrow. Now when we borrow, this 1 is no longer there. It is 0 now. Now this one that we have borrowed, since we are working in base 2, it is 2. So 2 plus 0 will give us 2. And then that 2 minus 1 will give us 1. Then we write it here. Are you following? Now we no longer have 1 here because this one we have already borrowed it. So we are left with what? 0. So 0 minus 1, you know it is not possible. So we have to come to this man and then we borrow. So we borrow this one to the 0. Now this one is no longer there. It is left with what? 0. So we have, since we are borrowing and we are working in base 2, the one that we borrowed is what? 2. So 2 minus 1 will give us 1. Now remember, this one is no longer here because we have borrowed. We are left with what? 0. 0 minus nothing is still 0. We can decide to write it or leave it. So we have base 2. Very, very easy. I guess you are following. Try this example for me. So you pause the video and then do it for me. So let's solve it together and let's see if your answer is really right. So we have 321 to the base of 5 minus 24 to the base of 5. So let's start. 1 minus 4, realize that 1 is less than 4, so we can't do that. We have to come to 2 and then we borrow, right? So we are going to borrow 1 from here. So when we borrow, we are no longer having 2, we have what? 1 here. Now the one that we are borrowing, since we are working in base 5, the one that we are borrowing is what? Is 5. So we are going to get 5 plus this one will give us what? 6. And therefore 6 minus 4 will give us 2. Good. Since 2 is less than 5, we can write it, right? Good. Now we borrowed 1 here, so we no longer have 2, we are having 1. So 1 minus 2 will give us, it is not possible. So we have to come to the next number we beg so that it will borrow us 1 number. So let's beg for 1. Now this 3 has reduced to 2. Good. And then we borrowed 1 to this very side. So we are already having 1 here. But the one that we are borrowing from 3, since we are working in base 5, it is what? 5. So we are going to get 5 plus this one, and it is giving us what? 6. So 6 minus 2 give us 4. Good, and 4 is less than 5, so we can write it. Now we are having 2 here because we have borrowed 1 from the 3 to the other number. And then 2 minus nothing is what? 2. So we can write it. Good. We have base 5. I guess you add this very number. Good. I trust you. Let's take one more example. So try your hands on this very quick one. Very, very quick one. So let's solve it together. 2 minus 3 will give us, it is not possible. But remember, we are working in base 8. So the highest digit should be what? 7. Good. So since we can subtract 2 from 3, we have to borrow. So we are going to borrow from 1. Okay. So we have 0 here now. Now the one that we have borrowed here, since we are working in base 8, is what? 8. So we have 8 plus 2, and that is giving us what? 10. Then we subtract this 10 from what? Then we subtract 3 from what? 10. So we have 10 minus 3 will give us 7. And since 7 is less than the base 8, we can write it. Now we have borrowed 1 here, so we are left with 0. Don't forget. Now we can't subtract 6 from 0. So we have to come to 6 and borrow this 6, and then we borrow. So we are going to borrow 1 from the 6. So the one that we are borrowing, since we are working in base 8, is what? 8. Here is what? 0. So plus 0, this gives us 8. And then 8 minus 6 will give us what? 2. So we can write the 2. Now remember, we borrowed 1 from the 6. We are left with what? 5. 5 minus 4 give us 1. Base what? 8. Very, very easy. Let's take 2 more examples. So we have to find the missing number in base 4. So we have all these numbers in base 4. So you realize that the sum of this number plus this missing number plus this number gives us this very number. So to find the missing number, we are going to add this number plus this number, and then we subtract it from the result, and that is going to give us what? The missing number. Are you following? We are going to add this number to this number. What we get, we subtract it from the result, and that answer will give us what? The missing number. Are you following? Good. Let's clean this part so that we can write. We can start solving from here. So first of all, what we are going to do is that we are going to add this number to this number. So let's write it 3, 1, 0, 1 is 4 plus 2, 1, 3 is 4. So remember, we are working in base 4. So 1 plus 3 will give us what? 4. We are working in base 4. So we have to divide that 4 by the base that we are working in. We are getting 1 remainder 0. So we are going to write the 0, divide the quotient, or we add it to the next number. 1 plus 0 give us 1, plus 1 will give us 2, and 2 is less than the base. 1 plus 2 give us 3, 3 is also less than the base. Now 3 plus nothing will give us what? 3. In base what? 4. Good. So after adding these two numbers together, what you get, you subtract it from what? The result, that's the final answer. So we are going to get 10301. Then we are going to subtract this one from it. So we have minus 0, 2, 3, 3. So we are going to get 1 minus 0. All of them are in base 4, sorry. So they are in base 4. 1 minus 0 will give us 1. 1 is less than the base, so we can write it. 0 minus 2, you know it is not possible. So we have to come to 3 and then beg for 1. So when we come to 3 and then we beg for 1, the one that we are borrowing is what? 4. So we have 4 plus 0 will give us 4. And this 4 minus 2 will give us 2. Now we have already borrowed 1 here, so we are left with what? 2. So we have 2 here. Let me write it small here. Now, you know that we can't subtract 3 from 2, so we have to come to this very side and then borrow. So realize that there's nothing here, so we can't borrow. So we have to shift to the next number, which is 1, and then we borrow. So the one that we are borrowing from here, so we are borrowed 1 from here. So the one that we are borrowed from here, since we are working in this 4, it is what? 4. So 4 plus 0 give us 4. Good. So it means that we have 4 here. Are you following? Good. Now, we are coming to this very side. So we have to borrow 1 from the 4, which is here, to 2. But the one that we are borrowing from 4 is what? Is 4. So we are going to get 4 plus 2. And that gives us what? 6. And then 6 minus 3 will give us what? 3. Good. Now I realize that we were having 4 here and then we borrowed 1. We are left with what? 3. So 3 minus 3 will give us what? 0. So we can decide to write it here or leave it. Now this one, we have already borrowed it, so there's nothing here. So we have 3, 2, 1 to the base of 4. So the missing number is 3, 2, 1. Very, very easy. So as I said, first add these two numbers. The result that you get subtracted from the final answer. And that will give you the missing number. Try your hands on example 6. So let's solve it together. So we are going to apply the same concept here. We are going to add this number to this number. Remember, we are working in base 5. All these numbers are in base 5. So we are going to add this number to this very number. The result that we get is subtracted from the final answer. So let's add these two numbers together. So we have 2, 4, 1. And then we have 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, and then 2. Remember, all of them are in base 5. So we have 1 plus 2 gives us 3. 3 is less than the base, so we can write it. 4 plus 3 gives us 7. 7 is greater than the base, so we divide it by the base. This gives us 1 remainder 2. So we write the remainder and then we send the 1 to the next number. 1 plus 2, 3. 3 plus 1, 4. We are working in base 5, so 4 is less than that. We can write it. So the result that we have gotten after summing these two numbers together, we subtract it from this number. Is that clear? Good. So we are going to get 4, 4, 2 base 5, 4, 4, 2 base 5 minus 4, 2, 3 base 5, 4, 2, 3 base 5. So we have 2 minus 3, you know it is not possible. So we have to come and beg for 1. So when we borrow 1 from here, the one that we are borrowing from here, it is what? 5. Good. So we have 5 plus what? 2. And that gives us 7. Then 7 minus 3 will give us what? 4. Now what are we left here? We are left with 3 because we borrowed 1 from here. So we have 3 minus 2 will give us 1. 4 minus 4 will give us 0. So we have 14 to the base of 5. That is the value of the missing number. You can decide to write the 0 or clean it. It is insignificant when it is before these numbers. Okay, good. Now, I am going to give you a tutorial set questions. Pause the video, you write them down, then you try your hands on it. Is that clear? Good. So these are your tutorial set questions. Kindly pause the video, you write them down. This brings us to the end of today's lesson. If you are new on this channel, can you like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to this very channel for more updates. See you next week. Bye bye.